Since the series beginning in 1995, Command & Conquer had come to define the real-time strategy genre. And as it did, its Las Vegas-based developer Westwood Studios was catapulted into the top echelon of the industry. Not surprisingly, coming so quickly into the limelight attracted attention, and soon enough, Electronic Arts acquired them outright from Virgin Interactive. As part of that deal, EA also got Virgin's studio in Irvine, California. EA put the Irvine studio under Westwood's supervision, renaming them first Westwood Pacific and later EA Pacific. They were soon tasked with making a Command & Conquer game of their own, resulting in 2000's highly regarded Red Alert 2. But though the franchise was as popular as ever, there was a sense that it was all starting to stagnate. While the graphics had gotten better, the games all played pretty similar to one another. Every developer on every sequel has to ask what to update to keep it fresh, and what to save to keep it familiar. But this time, Westwood decided that the time had come to completely upend everything they knew about Command & Conquer, and got to work on a number of games in a variety of genres. It was a massive gamble, and they knew it. But for a variety of reasons, in the end, the gamble failed, and the development house paid for it with its life. 1997's Command & Conquer: Sole Survivor had been an experiment to see if gamers were interested in playing as a single unit in the CNC universe. And the answer had been no. But Westwood didn't give up on the idea. They knew that the world they had created with its factions, heroes, and villains was as much a part of the appeal as the gameplay itself. The ability to play as one soldier making a dramatic impact on the story could be a huge draw if they could only nail down the format. By the early 2000s, it was obvious what the new biggest name in gaming was: first-person shooters. So in 2002, Westwood dropped a bombshell with Command & Conquer Renegade, which traded out the bird's-eye view for a ground-level approach. The gamer would play as a commando, one of the most popular units from the original game. In his shoes, the gamer would use a variety of recognizable CNC weapons to take on a variety of recognizable CNC bad guys, but the similarities stopped there. Besides the obvious change in genre, it was also the company's first foray into 3D. Trading sprites for polygons, Westwood had built their own engine from the ground up to give Command & Conquer a whole new finish. That being said, there were some basic tenets of CNC that Westwood wanted to preserve. The goal of multiplayer was still to destroy the enemy base, using a mix of infantry and vehicle tactics. It was a unique twist on the typical deathmatch style and kept fans feeling right at home. Sadly, the game did suffer from poor AI in the single player and poor networking in multiplayer, as well as map designs that didn't feel as polished as other shooters. It didn't help that the weapons felt similar and too powerful, breaking the different but equal balance that Westwood had become famous for. It was apparent that while the team that made Renegade was very talented, they were unused to this game style. Although the game earned a dedicated following, to the hardcore shooter crowd, it didn't stand up against its competition, and sales did not meet expectations. As the first Command & Conquer game that didn't have players commanding anything, maybe it shouldn't be a surprise that it didn't conquer either.
Are you always this incompetent?
Cow.
Pig.
No. Cow.
Coming out of Renegade, Westwood had a number of games that they were working on. What did they have in common? They were all Command & Conquer. What did they not have in common? Everything else. The guys from Vegas were branching out in a big way. Cornering the RTS market wasn't enough. They wanted the whole thing. Renegade 2 was the obvious choice coming out. They had learned a lot from Renegade and thought that they could make a sequel that would blow away their earlier endeavor. Sadly, they had barely gotten into pre-production before they received their first wake-up call. They weren't an independent studio anymore. EA had not been impressed by Renegade's performance and did not see the reason in investing more money into the FPS series. Right at this time, Swedish developer DICE was putting the finishing touches on Battlefield 1942, and EA wanted to throw its weight behind that title. And so, the Renegade went AWOL. Fortunately, Westwood hadn't forgotten about their RTS roots. They already had another team working on their next strategy masterpiece, Command & Conquer 3: Tiberium Incursion. But once again, only shortly into pre-production, they ceased working on it. This time, it wasn't because external forces didn't let them. This time, they chose to put it on hold to work on their biggest, craziest gamble yet. A massively multiplayer online role-playing game based on their real-time strategy franchise. Command & Conquer Continuum was another venture into the single-character space, jumping onto another genre that Westwood felt was beginning to take off. The team had a lot of great ideas for how to really push MMOs forward, including what would come to be known as an instance. Now a genre staple, at the time, it didn't even exist. Westwood felt like they were onto something magical with Continuum. But there was one little problem. Yet another team at Westwood was already working on a completely different MMO. Seeing as that project was further along, Westwood again made an internal decision to halt work on Continuum to work on Earth and Beyond. After that was done, they'd go back to Continuum, and after that was done, they'd go back to Command & Conquer 3. Earth and Beyond came out in September 2002, and to put it gently, failed catastrophically. An anemic reception from audiences led to the expensive MMO getting shut down only 2 years later. But even before that, Electronic Arts had seen enough. After Renegade's poor sales, Earth and Beyond's terrible sales, and the fact that Westwood had yet another costly MMO in the pipeline, EA decided to pull the plug. At the time, they owned 3 big studios in the southwestern United States: Westwood in Las Vegas, EA Pacific in Irvine, and the former DreamWorks Interactive team in Los Angeles. In January 2003, EA announced that it would be shutting down all 3 studios, but merging key staff from all of them into a single massive studio in LA. Many from Westwood were invited to join the new venture. Many were not. Many of those invited to move to LA accepted. Many did not. It was a devastating blow for a company that had been together for 20 years, during which time they'd invented a genre and then owned it. While most of that team would reassemble to form Petroglyph Games in their own Las Vegas, in the meantime, the newly minted EA Los Angeles already had a Command & Conquer ready to hit the shelves. And it was a complete break from everything that had come before. Tune in next time to see Command & Conquer Reborn.